How often should you actually be washing your hair? Is double shampooing really necessary? And if so, how often should you be doing it? Is it true that you're supposed to alternate the shampoos that you use? How long should you even be applying shampoo for? How often are you supposed to use a clarifying shampoo? And how can you tell if a shampoo is clarifying? I am going to be answering all of these questions plus many, many more in today's video where I walk you through my step-by-step shampoo routine. Let's jump into it. All right, let's kick off our shampoo routine discussion by talking about shampoo prep. So what you should do, if anything, to your scalp before you even step in the shower to wash your hair. When I'm thinking about this step in a shampoo routine, I think about it like a scalp treatment step. So you're doing something extra to treat the needs of your scalp if you have needs that shampoo alone do not fix. Emphasis on the word if, because not everyone is going to have a scalp that needs some extra attention outside of just shampooing as often as needed with a shampoo that's actually doing the job right. For a lot of people, that is enough to keep their scalp healthy and happy. And if that's the case, don't feel like you need to do anything extra just because everyone on social media seems to be pushing that. I personally feel that the biggest trend as it relates to this topic of scalp treatments is scalp oiling. I feel like I see everybody doing it on social media, and it's kind of gotten to this point where it feels like if you're not doing that in your hair care routine, you're doing something wrong. But that should not be the case, because scalp oiling is not for everybody. And in fact, it can actually cause more issues than it can I think what I'm trying to say is that it can cause more harm than good for a lot of people. And of course, that doesn't mean that that's the case for everybody. There are people that can benefit from a scalp oil, but like I was saying, because of the way that this has been pushed on social media, I feel like everyone thinks that they need to be oiling their scalp when the reality is a lot of people should not oil their scalp because, again, it can cause more harm than good. So those that can benefit from a scalp oil are those that truly have a dry scalp. And that is something that can actually be kind of tricky to figure out because a lot of people think that itchiness and flakes mean that they have a dry scalp. But something that I learned in my trichology course is that the #1 cause of an itchy scalp is oil. And flaking often coexists with itching due to oil because of the fact that you could have scaling present on your scalp that then kind of turns over into those flakes, or you may just have product buildup. So if you're somebody that's assuming that you have a dry scalp just based on the fact that your scalp is itchy and you see flakes in your hair, make sure that you're really assessing your scalp and hair together. Do you have oily roots? Does your hair get oily quickly? Because if so, then your issue is probably oil and not dryness. But if you do truly have a dry scalp, applying oil to your scalp before shampooing can absolutely be of benefit. It's something that can help to soften flakes so that they're easier to remove and just give your scalp some additional nourishment that it needs if it's feeling really dry. And if that's something that you have been doing before shampooing and you've noticed a really big improvement in symptoms like itching or irritation, then by all means, please continue doing that if it works well for you. But if it doesn't, or if you're unsure, I would recommend discontinuing the oil use before shampooing and instead either use nothing or potentially consider using some sort of exfoliating treatment. So there are two different kinds of exfoliating treatments: chemical exfoliants and physical exfoliants. Chemical exfoliants are going to include things like glycolic acid, salicylic acid, or maybe a combination of acids in one product. And there aren't actually that many treatments out there as of right now. I think we are going to see more in the future, but as of today, there aren't that many treatments out there that include those ingredients and are specifically designed for your scalp. But there are some, and the two that I would recommend are from the Inky list. The first is one that I've been using for a couple years now and I really love. It is the salicylic acid exfoliating scalp treatment. This is what I would recommend if your main concern is excessive oil and any symptoms that come along with it, like itching, scaling, flaking, etc. So this is not only going to help to exfoliate the scalp and remove any buildup that you have, it's also going to remove excess oil. If you're somebody that doesn't have a super oily scalp, maybe you just have more of a normal scalp with some extra buildup, or a dry scalp that again may have itching or flaking, then I would recommend this one. It is the glycolic acid exfoliating scalp scrub. What just happened to my voice? Glycolic acid is not oil soluble in the way that salicylic acid is, so it's not going to be as beneficial for those with oily skin. So it's still going to offer exfoliation just in a different way than salicylic acid, which again is why I think that this is going to be better for those of you that don't have a super oily scalp. But either way, I think the best way to figure out what works for you, as always, is to just do some trial and error. So you can definitely purchase something based on, my recommendation, what I think may work for you, but at the end of the day, Your scalp is your unique scalp, and just because I give a recommendation doesn't mean it's always going to work in that exact same way for you. The best way for you to know what works the best for you is to just test products out and see how your scalp responds. So if you're someone that has an extra oily scalp, an extra dry scalp, excessive flaking, scalp discomfort of any kind like itching or irritation, you may definitely benefit from adding an exfoliant to your routine. But if all you have is some product buildup, for most people, shampoo, if it's an effective shampoo, is going to be enough to remove that, and you're not going to need an extra exfoliant to do that job. So for me personally, I have been really enjoying the salicylic acid treatment because number one, I have an oily scalp, and number two, I'm prone to seborrheic dermatitis on the back of my head, and salicylic acid is a beneficial ingredient for that condition. I used to only apply this the day before I washed my hair and kind of thought of it as like a temporary leave-on that I eventually shampoo off, but I have started to just use this in that area that I'm prone to seborrheic dermatitis on a daily basis. So technically I do still use this as a pre-shampoo treatment, but I'm also just using it throughout the week as well. So it's not exclusively a pre-shampoo treatment for me anymore. And when I'm using it in that way, really just to help to manage my seborrheic dermatitis symptoms, I only apply it to the area of my scalp that's prone to those things, which is just like one spot on the back of my head. I'm not applying this all over my scalp on a daily basis because I just don't think it's necessary for my entire scalp. If I do want to use this as a pre-shampoo treatment, pre-shampoo exfoliant, that's when I'll go ahead and apply it all over my scalp. But I don't really feel the need to do that often because my shampoos are great. I have definitely changed the types of shampoos that I use and how often I use certain types of shampoos. And because of that, I feel like my scalp is just healthy, fresh, refreshed. It feels good after I shampoo for several days. I don't feel the need to add additional exfoliants to help to like manage symptoms or the way my scalp looks and feels. It's doing great with my shampoos, but again, if you feel that you could benefit from them, go ahead and try them out. It's not going to hurt. And then I'll quickly touch on the other category of exfoliants, which are physical exfoliants. So that includes things like scalp scrubs and any sort of tools to remove buildup like this one. I don't think that scalp scrubs are necessary. The one scenario in which I think they can be really helpful is if you have large amounts of product buildup and you like see that flaking throughout your hair and it feels like it's kind of been stuck in there, then you may want something like a physical scrub to help to loosen those and rinse them away. This is technically called a skincare spatula, I think, and to be totally transparent, I have just started playing around with this, so this is new to my life, I guess. So as I both research and test this out more, I'll definitely keep you guys posted on my thoughts on this, but I wanted to pick it up because the trichologist that I did my in-person training with used this on pretty much all of her clients and really loved it and recommended it. Oh, and I guess before we move on, I should say what this is actually supposed to do. That would be helpful, right? So this is an ultrasonic scrubber that is supposed to use sound waves to loosen dirt, grime, dead skin cells, etc. Allegedly. Like I said, I have some more research to do on this. Oh my gosh. Okay. I know that that was a lot to talk about before we even started to talk about shampoo, but I continue to get so many questions on those topics. I just wanted to make sure I addressed them all. So now let's move on to the actual shampoo process. When it comes to selecting a shampoo, it is so important for me to be reaching for a shampoo that gives me a thorough cleanse. If my scalp and hair do not feel clean and refreshed after I wash my hair, then that is not a shampoo I ever want to use ever again. I need to make sure that my shampoo is thoroughly removing oil, sweat, dirt, and buildup. Because if not, then my hair and scalp are not going to feel clean and refreshed, which again, are requirements for me. It has taken me a lot of product testing and a lot of trial and error to figure out which shampoos are my absolute favorite because they work the absolute best for my scalp. So the exact same thing that I said about testing out scalp exfoliants applies to shampoos as well, and really any hair care product, any beauty product at that. If you are having a hard time figuring out which shampoo is going to be the best fit for you, the best thing that you can do is just test it out and see how your scalp responds. So because part of my job here on YouTube is testing out hair care products, I have tried so many shampoos, and I really do have my favorites for certain situations narrowed down. And when it comes to deciding which of those favorite shampoo I want to use on any given wash day, I always assess my scalp and hair to figure that out. So I'm looking at my roots to see how greasy they look. If I have any flakes present, I am kind of taking stock of how my scalp feels. Does it feel itchier than normal, which likely means that I have quite a bit of oil or buildup on my scalp? Is there anything going on that needs to be addressed, or is it kind of just in the same shape that it always is, which is pretty good? If I assess my scalp and hair and I feel like I need something that's really going to give me a deep cleanse, then I will reach for one of my favorite clarifying shampoos. There are two shampoos that I have tried that I would personally consider to be the best when it comes to clarifying. The first is from good old Pantene. It's the Pantene Volume and Body Shampoo. Even though this isn't technically called a clarifying shampoo, I have personally found this to be the most intensely clarifying out of any shampoo I've ever tried. It just gets rid of everything, and my hair and scalp feel so refreshed after I use this, more so than anything else I've ever used. So that is my top recommendation for a clarifying shampoo if you need something that's just like intense and gonna get rid of everything. Another that I love that I think still does an excellent job but just isn't quite as intense as Pantene is the Way Detox Shampoo. This is amazing and it also smells so good. So those are my top two for either a dire situation or if I really just am craving that refresh, because sometimes that just feels so dang good. If not, and I just have like normal shampoo needs, I'll move on to my next tier of clarifying shampoos, which I would still consider to be very effective, definitely still clarifying, but not as intense. That includes things like the K18 Detox Shampoo, the Dove Scalp Plus Hair Therapy Clarifying Shampoo, and the L'Oreal Everpure Clarify Shampoo. I would say that these two are a bit better suited for super oily scalps than this one. I think if you have a normal to dry scalp, then you'll really love this for clarifying purposes. If you're oily like me, then you may just love this for an every wash situation. What was that? Because it does a great job at shampooing, but again, it's not like intense. So I absolutely love those shampoos. They're my current favorites. And yes, most of them do have clarify or detox on the label, but I have no issues using them every wash. I am currently washing 2 to 3 times a week, by the way, in case you are curious, which I'm sure many of you are. I have no issue using those 2 to 3 times a week because I don't care what's on the label. I care how my scalp and hair respond to a product, and they respond great to those. However, there of course are still other shampoos that I do enjoy that maybe don't have clarify or detox on the label, and I wouldn't really consider them to be that kind of shampoo. There still are shampoos like that out there that I really enjoy and will reach for. Like one example I can think of now is the Redken Acidic Shampoo. Still really love that. It's just that I'm a lot more likely to reach for a shampoo like that than I am something else because a lot of shampoos these days don't do a great job of cleansing. Frickin' natural, extra gentle. Get that away from me. Okay, so now that we have walked through how I select a shampoo, let's talk about how I actually like to use it. First things first, I always, still to this day, emulsify my shampoo before applying it to my scalp. I know that this has weirdly become kind of controversial. I mean, it's not that deep, but not everyone agrees with this. Somebody actually sent me a video where another creator like had included my OG emulsification video from like 2020 and was like, that's such a dumb idea. Don't do that. I stand by it. I do. And the reason why that is because I just find it so much easier to spread that shampoo evenly across my scalp than I do if I don't emulsify it. If you don't feel that you get any additional benefit from emulsifying your shampoo, then by all means skip this step. I don't care what you do in your shower. I truly don't. That's your business. Please keep it to yourself. But for me, I think especially because I have such high density, I do get a better cleanse if I emulsify my shampoo. So I am really thoroughly rubbing that shampoo back and forth between my hands before applying it to my scalp. And notice how I said scalp there and not hair, because I think something that can be really helpful in making sure that you're getting an effective cleanse is thinking about massaging your Hello? My brain just glitched. Is thinking about massaging your shampoo onto your scalp and not onto your hair. And it's not that you're not wanting to get this part of your hair clean. It's just that the goal is to just like get onto that scalp as good as you can, because that is where all of the oil buildup is. That's where the yeast and bacteria lives too. And I know for me, when I used to only think about getting, like this part of my hair clean, I was not effectively cleansing my scalp. So the goal is to get through your hair and down to your scalp to cover, that was so aggressive, to cover every square inch of your scalp, every centimeter of your scalp that you possibly can to get rid of the oil. and the funky stuff that's on there. So I usually will start on the outside, kind of the area that you would like most commonly think of when applying shampoo. And that includes underneath. So like the base of your scalp, the top of your neck, super important to take time to actually massage shampoo into that area of your scalp, because that area is very prone to buildup of sweat and sebum. Then from there, I make sure to lift up as many sections of hair as I possibly can so that, again, I am covering as much scalp as I possibly can. Something that can be really helpful here to make sure that you're not missing any areas is to actually just clip your hair up. Then you know for sure you can like get into that one area of your scalp, clip another section up, move on to the next. Obviously, you don't have to do that. But I think if you are just kind of starting to play around with shampooing in sections, that is a way to just make it a bit easier. Regardless of how you are sectioning off your hair, just make sure that you are doing that because that is what's going to give you the best cleanse possible. Something that I also like to do in addition to sectioning off my hair is flipping my scalp upside down. So when I do that, then I feel like I can get at areas that are a bit trickier to hit when I am standing up like this and I have gravity pulling my hair down. Then I have gravity working in a different way. And I feel like it's just easier to get like this area, you know, when I'm upside down. And if you're someone that just kind of like slaps shampoo on, you're probably thinking that this sounds really excessive and crazy. But the reason why I started doing this and acting like this in the shower is because I was so confused why my hair was looking and feeling clean so much longer after leaving the salon than it was at home when I was using the exact same shampoo. So years ago, I started to really pay attention to what my stylist was doing to my hair in the shampoo bowl and trying to replicate that at home. But obviously I realized I'm not like laying back in a shampoo bowl at home. I'm standing up, gravity's working differently. So that's when I started to get like real, the hands, like it's a T-Rex. That's when I started to get real scrappy with it in the shower to try to copy that process. After that has gone down, which I would say is probably like a 5-minute process by the time I have felt that I have really covered all of my scalp. After that, I thoroughly rinse, make sure all the shampoo is out of my hair, and then I repeat the process again. Double shampoo, rinse and repeat, whatever you want to call it, that is absolutely essential for me. There's a lot of misconceptions about this step, a lot of people thinking that you should do it for certain reasons, which are not actually why I like to do it. I feel like I'm not expressing myself in the best way that I could. And that the benefits a lot of people think you're getting from shampooing a second time are not actually benefits that you're getting. So I don't double shampoo because my shampoo gets sudsy the second time that I use it. And then therefore that means that it's actually working better. That is a myth. That's not actually true. The reason why your shampoo gets more sudsy the second time that you wash your hair or your scalp is because there's less sebum on your scalp. The only reason I rinse and repeat is because I feel that that is the best way to ensure that I've effectively cleansed my scalp. It really is just to make sure I haven't missed any areas and that everything's as clean as it possibly can be. When I used to only shampoo one time, I definitely noticed that my hair would just look greasier more quickly after washing. When I started to double shampoo, that didn't happen in the same way. I felt I could go longer between washes before my hair looked really greasy. And that's just because I was getting a better cleanse by shampooing a second time. If I do have buildup that either is very intense and very heavy, like just a ton of product, or I notice is maybe something that wasn't removed in my last wash, then I will go ahead and actually massage my lengths or ends or both, but very, very gently. So like this. You are not going to catch me aggressively rubbing my hands back and forth with the fragile lengths and ends of my hair that I have dedicated my life to healing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that if you feel you need it, but for me, almost always just letting that shampoo rinse through my hair when I'm rinsing it away with water is enough to remove any buildup that I have on my lengths and ends. After that, after I'm sure I have rinsed thoroughly, my shampoo routine is done. So those are all of the steps I wanted to walk through. Now let's move on to any remaining questions that you guys asked me about this entire shampoo process. Number one, how often should you shampoo? My answer to this is always as often as you need to maintain a healthy scalp. That's going to look a little bit different for everybody because scalp types play a role in how often you should be shampooing. Lifestyle factors like working out or, I don't know, like applying sunscreen onto your scalp. Things like that are factors that dictate how often you should shampoo. So really the only person who knows how often you should shampoo is you. If you feel that washing your scalp too often actually makes your scalp feel uncomfortable, then by all means wash less frequently if that works for you. There truly is no right or wrong answer here. I know that there have been a lot of trends on social media as it relates to how often you should wash, and I have been part of that as well. Back in the day, if you've been here since the beginning, I used to think that hair training was a thing. I have since learned better. I have since changed my stance on that, and my stance is do what you need to do and don't feel bad about whatever that is. Number 2, how much shampoo should I use? This is totally going to depend on the type of shampoo you're using, how it's formulated, and how thick your hair is, so how much density you have. You guys can see here how much shampoo I use each time that I shampoo. So like I'll use that much, do my shampoo in sections, rinse, repeat again. So then again, using that same amount. That is just what works for me because again, I do have really thick hair. But if you have super thin hair, you're not gonna need that much shampoo. So again, I don't think that there's a right or wrong answer here. It's not like, you have to worry about accidentally using too much and then you have over shampooed. Like that's not a thing. If anything, it'll just mean that you may have a harder time rinsing all of the shampoo away from your scalp. So do what works best for you here as well. Should you let shampoo sit on your scalp for a while? / how long should you shampoo? Unless you're using a shampoo that is medicated or has very specific active ingredients for certain benefits you're trying to achieve, there is no need to let your shampoo just sit on your scalp. But I do think a lot of people could benefit from shampooing longer than they think they need to or longer than they currently are. I think a lot of people tend to rush through the process of massaging shampoo, which just means they're not going to get an effective cleanse, not going to remove everything in the way that they need to. So while there's not a specific amount of time that you need to shampoo for, really make sure that you're taking your time and not rushing through that process, with the goal being covering as much of your scalp as you possibly can. Should you always double shampoo, like every wash, even with clarifying shampoos, or are there just certain scenarios in which you should? Like I said earlier, you do not need to double shampoo. I just find that that's what works best for me. And I always do that no matter what. So I'm doing that regardless of the type of shampoo I'm using and regardless of how often I'm shampooing in a given week. What is clarifying? This is a really good question that I actually got a lot. I think there used to be more of a specific type of shampoo that you could always rely on as being clarifying, whereas now that term is kind of loosened. It's used a lot more often in the hair space, and you see clarifying or detox on so many shampoo labels these days when a lot of them don't actually live up to that title. So for me, I just think about clarifying as effectively cleansing and like deeply cleansing and giving me that reset, refreshed clean. Does that make any sense at all? Like for me, there is a big difference between using Pantene Volume and Body and let's say Pureology Hydrate. And I think the more you test out different shampoos, the more you will start to realize which ones give you that refresh and which ones don't as much. How many times a week should you clarify? Can you use a clarifying shampoo every wash? Similar to the question of how often you should just shampoo period in a given week, I would say the same thing applies to clarifying. Totally a person by person basis. It just depends on how oily your scalp is, how much buildup you have, and what you feel that you need. I think there used to be a lot more concern or hesitation around clarifying often because clarifying shampoos used to just be more harsh on the hair. But now formulations have evolved so much, and so many clarifying shampoos do an amazing job at getting rid of everything, but without that harsh, stripped feeling. So all the clarifying shampoos I recommended, I don't have an issue with my hair feeling like straw after. So I have no issue using those often. There's no reason you can't use a clarifying shampoo every wash. Should you mix up or alternate shampoos every wash, or can you just use the same one? There's actually no need to alternate shampoos. The only time I would recommend alternating is if the shampoo that you're using is not working for you. If you're using one that works really well for you, that you love, you could keep using that for the rest of your life and still have healthy hair and a healthy scalp as long as it continues to work for you in the same way. You don't have to change it. That's a myth. Should you use a scalp scrubber? I don't think it's necessary for shampooing. I think your fingers can do a great job by themselves. And if anything, I think that scalp scrubbers can make it more likely that you'll experience breakage. So be very careful if you do use one. Make sure that the bristles on that scrubber are flexible. How can you make sure that all the shampoo is rinsed out? I always do the squish test. I'll like press on the sides of my head, and if I can hear and feel a squish, then that means there's still shampoo that needs to be rinsed away. Do you actually need to use a separate shampoo for dandruff, or is a good deep cleansing shampoo enough? This is a really good question, and I think it really just depends on how severe your dandruff is and if it is truly dandruff. Because if you just notice like some flakes on your scalp and it's not something that you feel is a consistent problem for you, then that's probably just buildup. And in that case, a deep cleansing shampoo is going to be good enough. You don't need something that is specifically for dandruff. But if you do have dandruff, which is an actual condition where your skin cells are turning over at a much faster rate than they normally would, then I do think it can be incredibly helpful to use a separate shampoo that is specifically formulated for dandruff. And going off of that, the next question is, what kinds of shampoos should you be using for dandruff? There are several ingredients that can be beneficial for dandruff symptoms, and those ingredients include zinc pyrithione, salicylic acid, coal tar, sulfur, selenium sulfide, and ketoconazole. I think the easiest thing to do is just search for anti-dandruff shampoos. You'll be able to see on the ingredients list which of those ingredients they are using to target dandruff. I would go that route versus like trying to look at all the shampoos in an aisle and see if they happen to have that ingredient, because more often than not, the shampoo will have the word dandruff in the title because it has one of those ingredients in a high enough amount to be beneficial for dandruff. How often should anti-dandruff / medicated shampoos be used? As often as you need to manage your symptoms and see improvement in your condition, while also avoiding irritation. Can I wash my hair daily if I work out every day? / if I do work out often or get really sweaty when I work out, how often should I shampoo my scalp? Number 1, yes, you can wash your hair daily if you work out every day. Number 2, if you are getting really sweaty from working out often or just from working out period, then I think that it's just gonna depend on how your scalp feels. Like technically, if we're being technical, if you were to ask me as now a certified trichologist what you should do if you have a very sweaty scalp after you work out, the answer would be to shampoo it. However, I'm also a realistic certified trichologist, and I totally understand that it's just not going to work for everybody to wash your hair every day. It is so much work. I get that. And I acknowledge that and am realistic about the fact that that is not something a lot of people care to do every single day or feel that they have the time to do every single day. So what I would say as a realistic certified trichologist is shampoo as often as you're able to help to eliminate any sort of uncomfortable sensations on your scalp. So if you're so itchy after working out from all of that sweat, shampoo more often if you're able to, and as often as you can to not have that itching happen. How can you avoid knots forming when you shampoo? Make sure that you are always brushing or combing through your hair before you shampoo. Otherwise, you may have some little knots in there that you didn't know that you had that can then turn into bigger knots when you're massaging shampoo into them. If you are doing that and you're still ending up with knots, a couple of things could be going on. Number 1, you could just have really damaged hair. That happened to me when I had severe bleach damage, and it was just something that I had to kind of learn to deal with after I got out of the shower by gently detangling, kind of loosening knots with my fingers and just kind of dealing with it as a consequence of having severely bleach damaged hair. Or if you don't have severely damaged hair, you could be using a shampoo that's just not a great fit for you and is something that is actually making your hair more prone to tangles. So I would recommend experimenting with some different shampoos and seeing if you still have that issue with some new ones. Because if you don't, then you solved the problem. What should I do if I have an itchy, flaky, dry scalp, but my roots get oily? Well, my friend, I am here to tell you that you do not have a dry scalp if that's the case. If you are noticing itching and flaking, like I said in the beginning of the video, but your roots are super oily, you have an oily scalp. And the best thing you can do to help to get rid of that itching and flaking is number 1, make sure you're using a really effective shampoo. Number 2, shampooing more often than you are now if after using that effective shampoo you feel like you're still having the issue. Or number 3, using a scalp exfoliant. My hair feels super wiry / straw-like after I shampoo. What should I do? I feel like this is the same kind of thing as your hair knotting in the shower, in that it could be from severe damage and just something you kind of have to deal with, or it could be that you're using a shampoo that is not agreeing with your hair type the best and you need to try something else out. Or you may just need to add a pre-shampoo oil to your lengths and ends, and then that will solve the problem for you. I have seen so many comments from people that felt like they had an issue like this. Their hair was straw-like or felt really dry after shampooing, but that problem totally went away when they started applying a pre-shampoo oil. And I did already post my pre-shampoo oil routine here on YouTube a couple of months ago now, so if you haven't seen that and you want to know my in-depth process, I will list that video below. What should I do if my hair is still oily after using a clarifying shampoo? Number one, make sure that that clarifying shampoo is actually effectively cleansing, because like I was saying earlier, a lot of brands have started to stamp clarifying or detoxing on labels of shampoos that aren't actually effective cleansers. So it's tough to recommend specific ingredients to look out for, because how effectively a shampoo cleanses your hair is really a matter of the entire formula and not just the presence of one ingredient. I did give you guys a handful of shampoos that I think do an amazing job at clarifying after having tested out so many shampoos over the years. So I will list those below. That's a good place to start. If you are still having those issues after using one of those shampoos, after making sure that you are really taking time to thoroughly massage your scalp, and after making sure that you're shampooing as often as needed and you're not like shampooing once a week and then dealing with that oil, if you have dealt with all of those things and you're still feeling like your scalp is really oily, you probably just have a super oily scalp. That is a thing. That's something that is controlled by a variety of factors like genetics, like our hormones, our age, even our environment. And I know that that probably sucks to hear, but I also hope that that maybe makes you feel a little bit relieved and that you're not doing something wrong. That's just something that a lot of people have to deal with. And the best thing you can do in a situation like that is always use a clarifying shampoo. So one of those that I talked about, use something like that every wash. Think about adding in some sort of salicylic acid leave-on treatment and shampoo as frequently as possible. What ingredients in shampoos should we avoid? There's not a single ingredient that I am going to tell you to look for on a label in order to avoid and then not purchase or use a shampoo because of its presence on that label. Is that a sentence? None is my shorter way of explaining the answer to that question. I am never looking at ingredients to see if there are things on there that I don't like, that I think are bad. I think that's something that a lot of us got sucked into when we first started to become a little bit more aware of ingredients and their function and purpose in products. But I think we just need to remember that cosmetic chemists, formulators exist for a reason. They know much more than we do, than we will ever know, unless we also get that same degree, about the way products are formulated and why certain ingredients are in a product. And we just need to trust that they're doing their job and they're not out to get us. They're not trying to ruin our scalp or our hair. All right, you guys. Oh my gosh, this is going to be one long video. If you're still watching, thank you so much for sticking around. But I just wanted to make sure I was able to answer as many questions as possible and just leave you without any remaining questions after ending this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, if you do still have outstanding questions, feel free to leave them. I'll try to answer as many as I can. Products that I recommend and mentioned in this video are listed in the description box below. And if you did enjoy this video and find it helpful, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, click on that notification bell, and send my channel to a friend. Thank you so much for your support in doing those things. It really does mean the world. Thank you for watching my videos. I love the freaking heck out of you guys. Make sure to stay tuned for my next one because that will be up in a few days. But until then, I hope you have a great few days.